Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I am your host, Teri Wellbrock, and I am so grateful that you're here. Before we dive into today's conversation, I want to share some beautiful news. The Healing Place podcast has been ranked number 11 in the top 15 healing podcasts for 2026 by PodRanker. And to be included alongside the likes of Oprah and Dr. Tara Brach is something I truly receive with humility and gratitude. This recognition belongs to the entire community, to every guest who has shared vulnerability, and to every listener who shows up ready to grow, reflect, and heal. Whether you're walking through grief, trauma recovery, addiction healing, personal growth, or spiritual expansion, this is your space. A space for compassion, a space for courage, a space for healing. And I am so glad that you're here. Thank you for being here. Thank you for inviting others. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for commenting, loving, liking, leaving your reviews, joining me on my Facebook page of the Healing Place podcast, connecting on LinkedIn, wherever it is we connect. Again, I am so grateful for you, and this wouldn't have happened without you. So thank you. All right, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, everybody, to the Healing Place podcast. I'm your host, Teri Wellbrock, and always smiling, always so happy. I have these beautiful conversations with my guests before I hit record, and it just always has my heart glowing with joy. So today I have Leslie Slemmons, and she is a licensed clinical social worker and experienced yoga and somatic teacher with 2 decades of work in mental health care. So welcome, Leslie.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Teri, and thank you for everyone that's here today listening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, I know one of my favorite topics, and I have not talked about it a whole lot on this show, so I'm excited for you to talk about it, is the somatic part. I know for me, having horrendous childhood trauma, what I went through, I've done EMDR, I've done EFT, I've done so much, and I've done some somatic work. And the somatic work I found that was after I had done EMDR. It kind of just like pulled it all together and helped me because I had learned to be comfortable in my own body. But some things were still popping up. So can you talk to us about, for those who don't know, what is somatic work?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll start off by saying that somatics is such like a trendy word, like almost like trauma, right? It can mean so many things to so many different people. And so I'll just kind of define it the way that like I've been taught from my teachers and the way that I use it when I work with clients. And I'm not claiming that it's the only way somatics is used. It can look definitely very different depending on whether it's a therapist or practitioner that you're working with. And so somatics, the way that I use it, that comes from Thomas Hanna, is from the Greek word of soma, which is really just looking at the whole body system, instead of kind of a segmented way that, especially in the West, we tend to look at when we are assessing or working with clients. So like, for instance, in my traditional education as a social worker, like we're given an assessment that's called biopsychosocial spiritual. And so even in that assessment, right, we're already breaking down these different areas and looking at it almost from like a segmented, like there's this part of the person and there's like this section of the person. Whereas like somatics, why I've always been really drawn to it, is that it looks at the whole body as one interplay of a system that interacts with each other in so many different aspects and regards. And so which is also what I've learned through yoga, is that the mind and body is actually one. It's not separate. And so somatics is really starting to build more language around that idea of a person, that it's a whole person and not like the segmented version of a person that's very much each aspect kind of impacts the other. And so one of the things that I think gets often lost is and obviously with some of the trauma work, it's getting a lot more informed in our society, is the body. And what somatics, really helps is learning to reconnect ourselves to the experience that we're having inside of our body. And so the thing that I love about it is that it is all about what your experience is of yourself in that moment and how to bring that to light and how to really reconnect with those aspects of yourself that you've lost. And I know, like in my practice, I work a lot with women, and a lot of women, unfortunately, I think struggle with an aspect that it sounds like you've been really able to reconnect with, but a lot of women are really disconnected from their bodies. And I think that, I hate to say it, but it is purposeful. Like, I do think our society has tried to separate women from their bodies, whether it's through shaming, through telling women they need to look a certain way, they need to act a certain way, they need to be more submissive or more quiet. Those kinds of things disconnect women from their bodies. And somatics is learning to kind of see those things about yourself. And then, if the person is wanting it, how to reclaim those lost parts of themselves. And yeah, so that's kind of like a bigger scope of it all. Now, of course, there's like techniques behind it. But what I also like to say is I do think that yoga is the OG of somatics. Like, I think, over the years, now it's like been claimed by other people, but I really do think that the essence of yoga is all somatic based.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I know for me, well, one, there was so much that you said that I resonated with. Um, being and I loved, just for a second, I'm going to go to the part where you said about women, because I know for me, like as a child, as a girl, I was told, you tell anybody about this and I'll kill you, or
Mm.
that kind of stuff when during
Yeah.
sexual abuse. And there, and with my dad, being physically abusive my first 10 years of life, the whole silencing thing and keeping my mouth shut. And so when I started to find my voice and I started to use my voice, how there were times that um I was told, oh, you're over dramatic, or you're a drama queen or whatever, because I was finally starting to like, and it was still trying like a silencing thing. And so I'm really glad you brought that up, because I don't think a lot of women think of that. Like, oh, yeah, I have
Mhm.
been like put in this place, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
That's right. That's right. And the thing is, like, um, when I worked at a school a while ago, and one of the things that I learned is all behavior is communication. And it's just like, are we able to see what is being communicated? And I think that's a piece that, sometimes we lose, is like when our voice is taken from us, the body will try to express that in other ways. And if it's not safe to show that expression, the body will then hold on to that and use it in other ways. So, like, I'm super fascinated with like how there's such a high range of autoimmune disorders in women. And I think that's a piece of the silencing. Like, our body, in the miraculous like vehicle that it is, knows when it's not safe to express certain things. And so it will like take it for the team. It will do what it needs to do to help us survive, and yet like hold it in a way that perhaps is safer than it is to show it in a way that might be unsafe, given maybe who we're surrounded by or what our environment is.
Yes. Oh, I'm so glad we've talked about it. I've talked about it in the past couple episodes, but I had always I prided myself. I had beautiful skin. I never had, acne as a teenager. Everybody was always like, oh my gosh, your skin's so pretty. And then
Mhm.
when we moved into this house on Hilton Head, unbeknownst to us, it had toxic mold. And so I had an autoimmune response, but the toxins cleared out, the home cleared, we did all the work on the house, we did the remediation, everything's great, but my skin was still screaming. And so I had a lot of different people that came on the show and so forth, and my own therapy work that was like, Teri, the toxins are gone. Your body's still in a
Mhm.
trauma response state. And your skin is screaming at you. It is trying to tell you something. And so
Mhm.
when I dove a little deeper, it was like, oh, anger. Anger was that one thing I never dealt with. Even in
Mhm.
EMDR therapy, I was like, no, we'll deal with that later. Like never the anger component. And so I was
Yeah.
like, oh, that makes so much sense. My skin is literally screaming, trying to, I guess just release the anger or store it, and it
Mhm.
can't take it anymore. So yeah,
Yeah.
fascinating.
That's right. That's right. And absolutely, because like in internal family system, if we look at that as like the right, like a part of you is again, like all behavior is communication. So like the behavior of your skin is expressing something in that moment. And I think that those are the moments that invites us into ourselves and where we can decide, is this a relationship I'm ready to build with myself to learn what it is that this part is actually needing from me? And sometimes we're not, and that's okay too. But you're
Yeah.
right, the body will um, help us along our own journey. It's just a matter of, are we willing and available to begin to start to have that relationship with it?
Yeah, fascinating. I do have a quick question for you, not as a therapy session kind of question, but just to talk about this.
Yeah.
So again, I've done a lot of therapy work, really, done tremendous. I've done somatic stuff like flying by myself when my mom was sick and having to head back to Cincinnati. And um, my
Mm-hmm.
arms started tingling on the flight when I started to feel the old panic sensations rise, but I just put my hand on it and I talked to it and did again that
Mm-hmm.
somatic work, and my system settled. But I noticed when we were just driving home from um, Cincinnati and coming home, we went a different route than we normally do. And I'm kind of I have driving phobias. Like I don't like highways, I don't like bridges, but I get
Mm-hmm.
myself through it. And so I was in the back seat and the family's up front, and I'm just kind of doing my thing. I think I had headphones on, I had meditation music in, and just
Mm-hmm.
being very calm. But I looked up for whatever reason, and we were in this huge, wide open space. And as I say it, my legs started to tingle. And
Mm-hmm.
I felt so like exposed. And if I don't hide right now, I will die, is the
Mm-hmm.
overwhelming sensation that came over me. Now, is that something that then people can do a somatic work to kind of bring themselves back into the
Mm-hmm.
now? And because I dissociated purposefully, like I found things to distract myself with. I
Mm-hmm.
got my laptop out and I was doing all the things, but I wasn't doing the healing work. I was just like, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to dissociate from this feeling because it's really overwhelming and scary,
Yeah.
and purposely did that. So anyway,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. No, that is such a great question. And this is so important, I think, to clarify, because that is to me a difference of somatic therapy versus using maybe somatics as a coping tool. So in somatic therapy, one of the things that I really like to have clients begin to learn is to begin to gauge their level of where they're at, for instance, outside of maybe their window of tolerance. So, like on a scale from 0 to 10, that feeling that you're getting, what level is it at? And I always say to clients, if you are above a 7, if you are anywhere between a 7 and 10, then that is not a time that you want to try to bring yourself down because your body is too heightened. You're outside of your window of tolerance. That it is you're just creating more fear in your system by trying to tell yourself you shouldn't be experiencing whatever that feeling is. And so, if you can't offer yourself some compassion and nurture and the discernment to make a choice for what's actually going to be the best for me right now in this moment, and consciously disassociating, I think is one of the most underrated skills that we offer ourselves because it can be so helpful at times like that, right? Like, but you're consciously telling yourself, I know what I need right now, and I'm going to do it because I'm at this higher level, and that's actually going to give me more comfort right now to get me through this experience, right? And so to me, what I hear you do was like a great intervention from a somatic therapist perspective. Now, I think where it gets confusing is when there's this idea of that you should use it as a coping tool. So you should, in those moments, be able to bring yourself back. But what we're actually looking for is a corrective experience. So we want to be in those experiences. We just want to be in those experiences where we feel a little safer, right?
Yeah.
And then over time, those corrective experiences build off on each other. And that's how we start to change the brain and change our neurons and that experience of that moment. But if we are fighting ourselves, then we're actually not creating a safe corrective experience. If you're at a lower level, then those are the times that we encourage somatic tracking or using some of those skills because the goal is to decrease fear. That is the goal that we're trying to promote. It's not to actually remove the experience, and it's not even actually to make you feel better. It's to decrease fear. So, however, we need to do that is what we're trying to do in those moments. Does that make sense?
Oh my gosh, I think that was the most brilliant explanation I've ever heard. So, yes,
Oh,
like truly, it's so resonated with me. I was just lost in your words right then because it just so connected with me. And yes, one, that was a heart hug. Thank you for
mm,
recognizing that I knew I had reached a 10. Like I
mhm,
really, that's where I was. And
mhm,
I knew I couldn't bring myself, like rein myself back in that moment. But I love that you also incorporated the brain plasticity and, the neurons, the brain rewiring, because I do that work. And it's, I just think it's so critical and so important. And I love that you utilize that in putting yourself, those kind of like little baby steps into a
mhm.
situation where that would normally cause heightened anxiety and saying, whatever it is you need to do in that moment to then get yourself to, oh, I'm here in the now. And I'm calm. And so your brain goes, oh, we can be in this situation. Yeah, I love
That's
that.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's totally it. Yep. Yep. And those are the moments that I say feel like healing to me, right? Those are the moments. And I think, again, that's why I feel like it gets so overlooked because it's not this like huge aha moment, right? Where we feel the sense of relief. And I think sometimes that's also a thing about somatics. People think you just shake your body and then you like shake the anger out. Let me just keep shaking. Um,
Right.
and really it's about reconnection. That's what we're doing with somatics. It's about reconnecting yourself to yourself in safe ways that help you to feel more safe to be you. And that is really what somatics is all about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely beautiful. Well, I know we could probably sit here and talk about somatics the whole time, but I wanted to talk about do you do just somatic work or do you integrate like other modalities in helping people heal?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm trained at level 2 of internal family systems. And that is, to me, by far one of the most compassionate modalities that I just find that clients, just really, it really helps them to understand their own psyches and this whole mind body connection. Like it almost desensitize this idea of separation, even though it's kind of a separate model in a way because it talks about multidimensionality that like we all have different parts but yet those parts are us and so IFS is a huge one. And then I'm also trained in pain reprocessing therapy. And so that's a huge piece because a lot of my clients have chronic illnesses or things that, again, their body is using as a way perhaps of expression. Sometimes it's not all the case, but if it is neuroplastic pain, then for sure that's a way that we can address it through PRT and then somatics. So yeah,
Yeah.
those are the kind of the three modalities that I dance with. I'm not like just using one modality all the time. It's pretty integrated. I mean, for a while I did as I was learning each of the models, but now that I've been practicing and gotten a bunch of supervision around it as well, now it kind of flows a little bit more in and out. And it just kind of depends on, what the client is needing and how to help support them. And so, like exposure, I think sometimes that's a piece too that we lose out in the one-on-one setting is we're just so often to having clients show up in our therapy spaces and then we just work with them in our therapy spaces. But for me, sometimes it's about being in the environment with clients. And so once we kind of get to a point where exposure makes sense, for instance, if there's a lot of anxiety around an area and we've really done a lot of the work of safety, then the next step is for me to be with them in those places. And so that's something that maybe looks, I think, different for other therapists that I really invite. Like to me, that's trauma informed care. It means that we're going to, really work through whatever it is that you need support in. And I'm not just going to expect you to do it all on your own, not at least until you're ready.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Well, I need to like meet up with you on the beach in a big wide open space.
That's right.
I'm like, oh my gosh. I mean, to me, that's amazing because how many times I've been out there, trying to do the work, trying to get myself again, the little things like, okay, as long as I'm under the umbrella, I feel a little safer. As long as I have the tent up, I feel a little, more not so exposed. And I've said to myself, God, I wish my therapist was here.
That's
Because
right.
I love that. I love that. And EF or internal family systems was the thing that I was thinking, oh, we've got to talk about that. But
Mhm.
I've not heard and I've not had anyone talk about was it pain reprocessing? Is that what you said? PRT?
Yep. Yep. Pain
Oh, I
reprocessing
love it.
therapy.
Can you dive into that a little bit more for me?
Yep. So pain reprocessing therapy is, yeah, it is a modality that I think is getting more and more familiar. Obviously, it's a little bit more known in I think in the Colorado, California area of the U.S. Slowly, hopefully, making its way kind of over here to the southeast side. And it is specifically, why I kind of like it is because sometimes with internal family systems, we just like explore, it's a very exploratory model. Whereas PRT to me is very direct, right? Like usually someone is coming with a specific pain issue. So it could be really any type of pain someone's experiencing. Obviously, it tends to be more physical, back pain, migraines. I would actually say migraines is probably one of the main ones that people come and see me. Chronic illness. So if there's just a chronic issue that they have. And so PRT is about addressing neuroplastic pain. So, neuroplastic pain is when the brain has taken a message from a signal of survival and continue to use that almost from a like habitual stance, that it's continuing to create these pain signals around an area of pain that we're experiencing because the brain still thinks that it needs to create those signals, not necessarily because the pain is actually really happening. But inside the experience of the person, it's not that their pain isn't real. It is so real. It's just that it's the brain sending the signal of the pain. It's not the body that's sending the signal of the pain. So usually this is for people who have gone and like gotten an MRI and the doctor's like, everything looks okay. And yet the patient is still experiencing pain, or it's gone longer than the typical healing phase of an injury. That could also be a symptom of neuroplastic pain. For people with migraines, a way that it shows up is that the pain moves. So it can, sometimes be felt like up here, and then sometimes it's like in the back of the head, or it's like a cheek or a sinus area. So if pain moves, that sometimes is another indicator that it's neuroplastic pain, because we know if the body is experiencing a physical pain, it doesn't move, right? It stays in the point of injury. And so PRT is a reprocessing model where we reprocess the brain to change the way in which the body is experiencing that signal of pain. And that's done through somatic tracking and then exposure once there's a greater level of safety. And that too is a model that's all about decreasing the fear in the system.
Interesting. And I've never talked about this on the show, and I'm going to throw it out, and it may resonate, but I, for the longest time, when I would lift weights, I would all of a sudden I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to stop because my hoo-ha area, my private area would hurt.
Mm,
And then when I started to doing some reprocessing work myself and doing work, it was like, oh, well, when my arms were being held over my head and me like trying to fight it and then being sexually abused, like
mm,
there was this correlation between like my arms, my muscles, in that tensing sensation, like when you're lifting weights,
yeah.
and me experiencing that pain in that area. And so
Mm,
when I started to make the correlation, it was amazing to me how when I would like lift some weights and I would start to feel it, then I started to laugh and giggle at it, not in a
yeah.
disrespectful kind of way, like, oh my gosh, this is funny, like this is what was happening. And then
Yeah.
it almost like was like, oh, okay, well, you don't have to be so worried about that now. And it just kind of settled itself down.
Yes, that's exactly it. That's exactly it. Like, because what happens in most people is that they get more stressed about it. Like, why am I feeling this way? What am I doing wrong? What do I need to change? Why is my body experiencing this? Right. And that creates a greater level of fear. But it's almost like when you can know what's happening, it sounds like it sent like a sense of relaxation because it was like it's almost like, oh my gosh, and that eases your whole body, which is a signal of safety. And
Yeah.
that tells your brain, oh, okay, I don't actually have to do this. I don't actually have to continue to send this signal because there isn't a threat here. But you're right, that has to be that body experience of that. We can't tell ourselves that we're safe. It has to really be the body feeling safe.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad you brought up that point too, because I know when I had used to have severe panic attacks from that stored negative energy because I hadn't done the healing work. Did I freeze?
No, you're good.
Okay. I just saw my picture. I saw my face freeze on this on the camera. I was like this.
Yeah.
Um, that shoot, it popped out of my head. I was talking about with like my body being frozen.
Mhm.
I don't even know. And that's weird because then my picture froze. Anyway, I don't remember what I was going to say. So let's take a real quick turn because I know
Okay.
we're probably on our limited on our time.
Yeah.
I know you brought up eternal family systems, and we've talked about it quite a while ago. So
Mhm.
just remind people kind of what the process is and what that's about in case that's something that resonates with them.
Yeah. So, internal family system is the model of care that is created by Dick Schwartz, and it looks at um, the internal psyche from the aspect of multidimensionality. And so, what that really means is that um, our way in which we experience things is not just a mono. Like individual experience, right? It is a diversity of experiences that we're having in that moment. It's just that sometimes we are cut off from what's really going on inside of ourselves. And what internal family systems helps to support is the process of rediscovering who you are and beginning to learn about all these different parts of yourself so that you can begin to distinguish who you are and also who you are not. And when you start to learn truly who you are, what internal family system calls that is your true self. That is the self that contains these components of healing because it's connected in a way to the divine. It's the healing mechanism that we all have because we know the body heals. Like, this is a thing that sometimes I feel like we can make it so much more simpler than it really seems to be so complex. Like, if you cut yourself and you're bleeding, you know over time the bleeding will stop, right? You can put a band-aid on it. You can, offer it some comfort and care. But at the end of the day, you know that it will heal.
Yeah.
And that simplistic way is exactly also what happens with our internal psyche, is that there is this mechanism inside of ourselves that is so purposefully made to heal us. It's just that we've lost that trust in that ability for that to actually happen. And so IFS is a way to relearn that and to really find who you are so that the body can begin to naturally heal on its own. But more than that, that you can also have discernment so that you can really know what is it that you truly need. I think that's one thing that I really like to emphasize on because a lot of my clients um, don't know what they need. Even if they get to know their parts and get to know their system, it's like they still don't know what they need. And that is the work, right? The work is like learning about yourself so that those needs become so clear, you don't even have to think about it, right? You don't even have to like stress about it. You just know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And again, for me, I know yoga was one of those things, it is one of those things that when I'm truly in the moment, especially and I'm so bad with the names of all the poses, but at the end, when you're lying flat and it's that quiet, still time,
Yeah.
that it's like that's almost like when the divine speaks, when I hear the I don't want to say the voices, but I hear what I need to be hearing, because
Mhm.
I'm just present in the now and just at peace. And that's when I
Yeah.
find so many of those answers. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And like that's it, right? It's like how to just be able to be in that experience. And to me, there's like the body can trust that, right? It can trust that I can be with the experience that I'm having right now. And in
Yeah.
order to make more of those moments happen, we have to find those moments where that wasn't able to happen so that those moments can be held in ways that they weren't able to. And then we can reintegrate that into ourselves, which then builds off of those corrective experiences so that
Yeah.
then we can have more of that.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I could sit here and talk to you. I may have to come back on just to like continue the
Oh,
conversation because it's just been, I mean, just so brilliant and so full of wisdom. So thank you for being here. I certainly want to leave you an opportunity to maybe leave folks with any words of wisdom or touch upon anything that you didn't get a chance to.
no, I think that the one thing that I just want to maybe emphasize on is that you know, sometimes I think especially in, the healing like this is a healing podcast. And I think sometimes we forget that healing isn't necessarily always about feeling good, right? Feeling good may be a result, but it isn't, um, the thing that will guarantee you to what will actually happen. And so I guess I just want to name that to help people that might feel some shame around their own healing journey when they aren't feeling good and then feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm backtracking or like I'm regressing. And to just recognize that, like, no, you are healing. You are right where you need to be. It's just that this is also a part of healing. And
Yeah.
just to remember that so that in those moments where it is tough, you are not doing anything wrong. It's just simply a part of the journey, and the feeling good is it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up too, because I know for me, again, I did EMDR therapy for 4 years. It was a very, very long process. I had horrific trauma that we had to work
Mm,
through. And so um, I would go on Mondays, and on Tuesday mornings when I was at work, there were times I would just be sobbing my eyes out.
mm,
And so I remember one of my coworkers said, "Why do you keep going back?" And I said, because every time I walk away, I feel just a little more hope, a little more.
mm.
And I knew I was doing the healing work, even though I was crying my eyes out and like, but I could
Yeah.
feel that's what kept me going back because I knew even in that pain, there was so much happening and so much
Mhm.
processing was going on. So I'm really glad you brought that up. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that share.
Sure, sure. Well, so how do folks connect with you? How do they work with you?
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me or to kind of see any information of offerings that I have is through the website. So it's Piece by Piece Therapy, which is tricky. It's PEACE by PIECE therapy.care. So it's not even .com. So I'm totally confusing you all, but the website is definitely the best avenue. You can get on my newsletter. I try to send those at least, bi-weekly, which will always have just like therapy offerings we have going on, and then as well as yoga offerings. So that's definitely the best place. Instagram is where I typically post information as well. So it's the same handle as far as the piece by piece therapy and Facebook. So those are the three main avenues, but I would say the newsletter is for sure the best way to kind of learn about the updates.
Awesome. All right, everyone, I will put some links and show notes so you can just be sure to go click on that and it'll take you right where you need to go. Well, it has just been such a joy. I've just really enjoyed one meeting you and two, just having you here to share your insights and wisdom. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Teri. Thank you for having me, and thank you for everyone who's here today listening.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone, thanks for joining us today on the Healing Place podcast. And remember, until next time, be gentle with yourself. Thanks. Bye-bye. Hey, everybody. Teri Wellbrock here. Just wanted to thank you again for being a part of this healing space and my hashtag Hope for Healing journey. Thank you for sharing, liking, inviting others to join, listening in. You've really helped this show blossom. It has now been downloaded in 136 countries and is in the top 2% globally out of 3.2 million shows, which is just amazing. And it's all because of you and your tuning in and inviting others and sharing and liking and loving. And your reviews on Apple really help too. My goal is to hit 100 5-star reviews by the end of the year. And I am closing in on that. So if you are listening in on Apple or Apple Podcasts, please go and rate the show and leave a review if you absolutely love it. And I would be most appreciative. Also, if you would like to receive my monthly Hope for Healing newsletter, please be sure to go to teriwellbrock.com. It's TERI, just one R, WELLBROCK.com. And I have a gift to send you for signing up for that monthly Hope for Healing newsletter. Plus, there are many other resources listed on that page, including a resource library. All right. Thanks. Bye-bye.